Today on Adorama Live on No Film School, we take a look at sound design and Foley, how they can complete the world of a film, with Julian Evans, the Vice President of AudioWorks and sound designer. This is Adorama Live on No Film School. Welcome to Adorama Live on No Film School, where we speak with filmmakers and video professionals about techniques and technology. I am your host, Stephen Pierce, here on the floor of NAB 2019 in Las Vegas. You can see all of the episodes of Adorama Live on nofilmschool.com, so please go check them all out. Now, in just a few minutes, we have a very exciting show. We're going to be talking with my friend, sound designer Julian Evans, about how to build the soundscape of a film. But first, we're going to take a look at the newest release from the reputable audio company Sennheiser, their XS wireless digital line. Joining me today from Sennheiser is Tom Conti. Please give him a warm round of applause and welcome him here. So Tom, let's look, you just released, I've already been a big fan of your G3 packs and your G4 packs. I own a lot of the wireless products you guys have. This is the new XS Wireless Digital, which is taking it to a new level for musicians and video pros that would need like lavaliers and such, right?
Yeah, this is XS Wireless Digital was just launched at NAMM earlier this year. This is a new entry-level product, based at the audio for video market as well as the music store retail market. So for the camera mount enthusiast, we have the camera mount receiver with a little cold shoe mount, and we have the body pack transmitter with a lavalier. There's actually a little belt clip that comes with the system. These are unfortunately our mock-ups, so I can't really turn them on. It's not working product. But normally, the way this works, this is designed very simply for the end user. This is a one-touch user interface. So basically, you take it out of the box, press the buttons and turn it on. They will turn on, they will connect to each other, and then you plug it in and you start using it. By design, there's really nothing you can adjust on here, so it's very simple design for the beginner.
Right, absolutely. I love that the one-touch thing, because one of the hardest things to learn initially is how to sync up your packs. Even though Sennheiser's made it very easy, that's something that always kind of confuses people at first whenever we pull out our packs and start trying to sync them.
Well, one of the challenges on the audio for video side is that every DSLR now shoots video. So that means that every camera guy now has to be an audio guy. Most camera guys don't necessarily want to be audio guys. So this actually simplifies it for them, where you don't have to worry about doing a frequency scan or a frequency coordination, with a more flexible product. Like for example, with our G4 camera mount systems, which are some of the top selling ENG kits, in the world, it's a very flexible professional product. So there's a lot of adjustments that you can make in the menus. And the menus are very intuitive and user friendly, but sometimes that's more than somebody who's a dedicated camera person wants to deal with, especially if they're not an audio person. Exactly.
Which is what we actually are using. That's what's powering both our mics right now.
Yes, we're using the Sennheiser G4. It looks like the 500 series
That's correct.
Transmitters, and we're using our HSP2 headsets.
Yes.
And you can hear how great
So
they
you see,
sound.
it was a joke when I said, I'm legitimately, I own several of these, love the Sennheiser products. That's why I was so excited that you guys had this release. Now, it's not just focused at professional video makers either.
There's also the live sound aspect of it. So, on the camera mount systems, we have the body pack with the lavalier, and there's also a plug-on transmitter that will plug into any dynamic microphone, making it wireless, that works with the camera mount receiver. But we also have, for live sound, we have a plug-in receiver that plugs right into your mixing board, and you can use that with either the lavalier microphone or the plug-on transmitter for the dynamic microphone.
So we could use this lavalier here if we wanted with this plug and almost go straight into our mixer or with a short XLR cable.
Correct. It's designed for presentation, so if we were doing something just like this, you could plug this into your console. One of us could be wearing this instead of using the headset microphone.
And these are great. They're small. They fit right in the pocket. Can clip right on. It's wonderful. And you also, I see, have these with the 1/4 inch out.
Yes, this is the guitar system. So It's just think of it as a replacement for a guitar cable. So instead of a cable, you just have two plug-ins. One goes into your guitar, so this is adjustable, so if you need a right angle, like say for a Gibson, or you just want to plug it in directly into a Stratocaster for those of you guitar players, and this would go into your amplifier or your pedal board. We're also going to offer a pedal board receiver, okay, and that's not shipping till June, but XS Wireless Digital is currently in stock and shipping. You can get it at Adorama. And one of the other things I do want to mention about this system is it operates in the 2.4 gigahertz range, and it's fully automatic. So when you turn it on, it's going to automatically connect to the other component, and then it's going to do automatic frequency management. There's automatic level control and automatic gain control. If it runs into a bad frequency, it's going to do automatic frequency hopping, and you won't hear a dropout if it changes frequencies.
Wow.
Okay, you can use up to 5 systems simultaneously in one area, and you can sync up to 4 transmitters with one receiver for one at a time operation. You can only use one transmitter with one receiver like any other wireless microphone system.
Wow, that's great.
Okay.
Well, you guys also, you won an award for this.
We did. We won from Videomaker, gave us the Best of NAB award. Videomaker is a magazine that caters to the prosumer video consumer, and they have several million subscribers. So this is actually a nice accolade for Sennheiser that this is one of the top products at the NAB show this year.
Tom, I'm very excited to get to test out, and thank you very much for making such a great new product. I think this is going to fill a major void kind of those people that just want it to work quickly, like you said, the people that have to be a sound guy whenever that's not their primary interest or job.
Right. Well, I didn't make it personally. Sennheiser did, but I'm very glad to represent Sennheiser. Sennheiser has a reputation in the industry of being a premium brand, and so people go for our products because of our performance, our build quality, and our reliability. That's why we're the go-to wireless on Broadway and for the broadcast networks.
Tom, thank you very much for coming on today and sharing the XS Wireless Digital System.
My pleasure.
Lovely seeing you.
Thanks for having me.
I started working with Julian Evans, a New York-based sound designer, and his company AudioWorks this last year, and it's been a really wonderful experience for me. If you're like me and you come from an editing background, you're used to having to just kind of make it work. You are on your laptop and trying to fill out the world of a piece, or on your machine and pulling sound effects and plugging it in, mixing it as best as you can. But I think it's a good example of what you should do versus what you can do. And really working with a professional designer and mixer really can take a piece from being good to great. Let's take a look at some work Julian did on a piece I directed that you can see how it takes the jump from being pretty good to really sounding full and finished.
Today I sat down with Steve and we did what's called a director spotting session.
Let's do it, dude. Rock and roll.
We pretty much watch down the entire piece and we go shot for shot, scene for scene, what are the most vital elements of the sound of the story that we're trying to convey.
So this is a tough moment. What it is like the horse arrives, the hero sees it, and then he exits.
There's that moment where we can hear the hero outside entering on his horse. And on first watch, it wasn't really having the sort of impact that we wanted it to, just because we were getting a little overwhelmed by the life of the saloon. We found that by stripping that down, we were able to create a little pocket of space to insert that horse arrival in, and all of a sudden, the audience, your ear goes straight to there as well. So the guns in any Western piece have such an importance in their sonic signature. If you're in the real world, it's really a lot more of a pop. And if you're in the cinematic world where we're dealing with hyperrealism, there's a lot more bass and compression.
Yeah, just a lot more booming.
We'll play around with some different stuff. A gun sound that reads as that old Western revolver, but with something that sounds sonically like dangerous and beefy. So we're talking about combining a few different elements, putting in a classic Colt 45, but I think that there also might be room for a Winchester rifle in there too, which has a lot more bass elements to it. The prop gun, the bang bang gun, we're talking about having the metal mechanics of it sound and work as though it was a real gun. But in regards to the actual firing of it, we're talking about more of a cloth sound for the flag. going to give that joke a much cuter button to it. This is just a narrative without any sort of broadcast spec on it. We're going to be mixing this film down as though it would be released for theatrical. Right out the gate, we want to do a 5:1 mix without any sort of compression so that the mix has the dynamic range that we want to build into it. It's going to sound great on pretty much everything. We're going to take this thing and we're going to pull it right apart, strip it all the way down to nothing, and then build it up again layer by layer. I myself would usually handle primarily sound effects and backgrounds. I'm going to have somebody else take care of the cloth and Foley props, and then I'll be mixing everything down.
My name is Lisa Moyer. I am a senior mixer and director at AudioWorks. Foley is, creating sound effects live and in sync to picture. Today we were just doing some Foley for some pouring, some drinking, some gulping, things like that. So we're just acting, literally acting, doing what the actor did in the movie and just recreating it in the studio. We're trying to make people believe that what they're hearing is real and it was recorded on set. So the first cue we're gonna do is right here with the villain. Breathe in, breathe out. This time, try it through are you doing through your mouth?
That was the mouth.
Try nose.
Okay.
Here we go. Well, first of all, ADR is automatic dialogue replacement. So what we're doing is trying to get any thing that has to do with the mouth.
So we did a lot of breathing audibles, fighting, bar drinking. It's really about using your body, your instrument, to get engaged in the booth to bring whatever we're working on audio-wise to life.
Come on in, guys.
Hey.
Hey, man.
How you doing,
Hey, what's going on? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
That's really exciting. I feel like so much is really, really working.
So what you guys have been listening to thus far, just for revision's sake, has been called an LTRT, a left total, right total. And so that's the surround mix, all 6 channels of it, folded down to a stereo representation of it.
But I feel like what would be good is if we just watch it down once.
Yeah, let's do it. That sounds great.
All right, great.
Cool.
Let's give it a watch. We're all set, man.
Ready.
So, pun intended, Bang Bang was an absolute blast to work on. I hope that everybody else has as much fun watching it as I had working on it, and hopefully along the way you learned a little bit about how we go through an audio post-production process for a short narrative piece.
Please welcome to Adorama Live, my friend, sound designer, Julian Evans. Julian, thank you very much for coming, man.
Steven, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, great. So that was, we just looked at a little bit of Bang Bang. We're going to check some of these pieces out a little more we're going to deconstruct them a little bit more later on. But that was completely shot MOS. Does that happen very often in films that you work on where you have no production sound whatsoever to work with?
Ideally, no, but every now and then we're given a piece that's just completely bare. And honestly, because Bang Bang is a piece without dialogue in the first place, we would have replaced anything anyway, you know? Production sound would have served completely as a sync reference, and, you know, it's not that big a deal to slug in some footsteps and get them all tight in line.
Is that something you recommend, even if you know you're not going to be able to use it, say you're shooting in kind of an odd environment that you can't really use the audio, you still recommend shoot something because you can give a reference of what the room sounded like and the actual materials might inspire you?
Well, absolutely, because any really good production sound mixer is going to be working in between the takes. You know, when electrics and grip are setting up the next shot, they might be going and looking at those saloon doors and getting those realistic sounds. You know, if they get a quiet moment, they might get some footsteps on the actual wood floor. If they really have a moment, they might do a frequency sweep so that we can actually capture a reverb sample to use in a convolution reverb like Altiverb or something like that.
Wow, I want to work with the sound guys you know.
I mean, that's why I say always bring on your post-production sound team during pre-production, because when I'm sort of in charge of the sound process from the beginning, those are the kind of things I'm looking through a script and I'm going, I want that, I want that, I want that.
Great. Yeah, I mean, and kind of as I mentioned in their intro, and we're going to look at some clips here specifically, but kind of as mentioned in the intro, it is a difference between, sometimes you obviously have to serve the budget. You know, you don't always have the money to be able to hire a sound designer on a piece, right? But honestly, I do think it's something that you'd be surprised, like reaching out, and I can tell you from experience, having worked with you now on a few pieces, what I'd always done and just accepted as like, well, that's awesome, and I really don't want to change much. And even whenever we watched Bang Bang, I was like, you know, I'm really happy with this. And then what you guys came and brought into it, like there are certain sections we'll bring up, but it just blew my mind how it took it to a whole new level, just having you guys involved. The texture just goes up. So let's actually look at another clip that you did that was fully shot in this complete MOS, right? There's no production sound at all, right? The Candace.
For Candace, there was production audio.
Oh, there was production audio.
Yeah.
But you had to go. Let's look at the clip and then we'll talk more about it.
Absolutely.
Nina. 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 Nina, I'm sorry, Nina.
So there's a lot, it feels very naturalistic, the overall sound of that. It doesn't feel like you're going for anything extreme. What are the challenges of that piece, and what was Foley versus what's real?
Well, obviously the dialogue was all real. That was all captured on set. You know, we got some water sounds, you know, actually in production, but when we were in post, it was a matter of they weren't really enough. You know, in films, there's so many different occasions where real life sounds underwhelming. And for the cinematic universe, where we really want to deal with hyper-realism, we wanted to add, you know, more water movement sounds. We wanted to add a little bit of like bathtub impact sounds. So for this piece, I literally got in a tub. I used a screen sharing program. I set an iPad up right next to the tub, and I did it for real. A lot of the splashes in there, I'd say about 90% were done in post.
What did you find working with water to be particularly challenging?
Well, I mean, first of all, most of bathtubs don't really have a convenient sound studio hooked up nearby them. So for that, I did that in my own apartment in Brooklyn, and I ran about 200 feet of XLR cabling from my studio into the bathroom that has the bathtub. Because my studio's in the basement, bathtub's on the first floor. And like I said, I used a screen sharing program to remotely watch the video in real time. And then I just rolled a bunch of takes. And, you know, I then had the content. I went in, cut it up, synced it up, mixed it.
I think this is a good time to bring up what is ADR and what is Foley?
Sure. So they are similar. ADR is really going to deal with dialogue. And actually, there is a lot of crossover in between the two. Say, for instance, you've got a scene where an actor, character is laughing. That you may want to bring your actor in and consider it ADR, especially if there's a performance aspect to it. But you don't necessarily need to have your real actor do like a sneeze or a gasp or a sigh. But maybe you do, depending on what the intention is and how specific it is to the character. And as a supervising sound editor, that's a delineation that I always go over with the director about how important is that, because I've got plenty of ADR sessions where I've flagged things as ADR, and either the director or the actor will be like, come on, I don't need to do that. I always say, yeah, you kind of do.
But ADR is typically dialogue replacement, right?
Yes, automatic dialogue replacement, even though there's really nothing automatic about it.
So you do that, and then Foley is more like the sound effects, like what you did in the bathtub kind of thing.
That's right. Foley generally serves more for enhancement purposes, although as you'll see later on, there are some Foley cues that are really integral to the story. Nonetheless, there is still a performance aspect to both. When I was doing bathtub sounds in that instance, I'm still trying to put myself, I'm basically trying to be like a dead body in that case, and really let water impacts sort of like fall and have this element of action, but still stillness underneath it all.
What else did you find? We're going to watch this clip one more time. So tell us what we're looking at. What little sounds might we not notice that kind of give it the realism and the texture, that we wouldn't be aware of?
Sure. So the one character entering the tub, all of her body movements on the actual porcelain of the bathtub, all of that stuff is nothing that we actually got during production. But all the same, it gives you a deeper feeling of intimacy. It gives you more of a connection to the picture without beating you over the head with it. It sounds more real than reality is the whole kind of idea.
Great. Let's take a look at that clip again.
Nina. 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 Nina, I'm sorry, Nina.
I really get the intimacy that you're talking about, that, especially with the impacts of the tub. Let's look at another clip that you did. It's called Standing 8. This is from a psychological, it's not thriller.
Boxing. No, just a psychological boxing film.
Psychological boxing film. Okay, and
it explored CTE as a condition that athletes, especially boxers, go through.
Okay, great. Let's take a look at this clip, and then we'll talk about what you got from the mix reference.
Never been one for the press.
So this is an example of a piece that you got that had already had an editor lay in a bunch of sound design, right? And in a second, we're going to look at what you got versus what that is the final. What are we hearing in the final mix? Like what overall texture, again, and implementations did you have to do?
Well, a little bit of story background. In this particular sparring sequence, the main character is having flashbacks to a boxing match that he had several months prior, in which he completely blacked out. Again, because of his condition of CTE, and killed another boxer in the ring. So while he's going through this, we're flashing back and forth to the roar of the crowd, like cheering him on, even though he's literally beating this other boxer to death. We're going through the music layer that is, kind of diegetically in the sparring scene, and we have that as a very distant echoed reverberation when we're in the flashback of the actual boxing match. Same thing, you've got the crowd sounds of the sparring intermixing with the crowd sounds of the wider match, all the different punches. The punches here were all done in Foley. I've got a leather trumpet case that I just sort of beat the hell out of. But so all these elements, we're trying to interweave them. There's a lot of reverse reverb. There's a lot of delay. Just trying to interweave a lot of different sound elements to really give us the sense of him being a little bit trapped in his subconscious, especially when he's knocked down and he's no longer in the real world. He's now in his own subconscious world.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at the mix reference that you got from the editor. So you can tell, I mean, I can tell right away, there's that crowd that you were talking about, which is such a big part of that cut. Like, so the difference between the room and the crowd cheering on, that's a big psychological element that's not even present in there. And that's something that you added in.
Well, that's right. That's one of the first things that I suggested to the director, a good friend and collaborator of mine, Michael Menard, was that the idea is that with these really short clips where, you know, he closes his eyes and for a very brief moment, he's back in that other boxing match. When he opens his eyes, he's back here again. And I said that, you know, in really extreme isolation for short periods of time, a crowd roaring, cheering, just sounds kind of like white noise. And it's a very nice punctuating element, especially because, as you can see in the mix reference that we got from the picture editorial, it's just a lot of like low impacts and deep sounds, and you know, it all gets like very muddy and washed out. And
whereas you're able to drive more, and then the punches also become more unique and individualized rather than a canned sound effect. You can kind of cater them to the world more.
They do, and you know, the punches also really serve as great delineations for edit points. You know, you're able to have a great punch impact, and all of a sudden you're in just a totally different soundscape, and then we give another punch and we're back out of it. So sound is able to cut very similarly to the way that picture cuts in a really dynamic and effective way.
I want to look now at the piece we did together, Bang Bang, that first Western, and I want to look at the opening shot because it's a great example that's really quick of building two worlds extremely quickly and how the tension of the storytelling is completely based upon the sound. So let's look at this, first of all, with the final mix. So the entire setup of both the saloon and the outside, the story of the horse coming through, which is a theme throughout the film. If you watch the film, you'll see that there's like a three, like some kind of carry through that. That all is told through sound completely. The camera is very much not telling you any stories, hardly at all. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm basically just kind of showing a clip and explaining to you what you already know.
Right. I mean, visually, it's sort of just a nice day on the prairie, and very, you know, a brooding character in a saloon that leaves us with questions, no doubt. And credit to you for the idea of the horse coming through and establishing the first shot, because what we're really doing is, if you watch the film again, you'll know that the first shot, the sound of the horse, establishes the hero coming towards the saloon, coming into town. The second shot, not just establishing the saloon, but is establishing our villain character. And like you said, I think that the sound of the horse coming through, the speed of it, the impactfulness, we specifically arranged it in the sound editorial and the mix such that the sound of the horse built and built and built, and the very zenith of it is where the picture cuts. So there's also this drama in who is coming up, what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think let's look at what I sent you, like the Reddit reference, so we can also kind of get, again, the textures that you added, the wind, the saloon, how it has more depth to it than what I initially did. Also you added in a breath, you added in, I mean, it's just much more effective, like the final mix. It draws much more tension, it does everything. It really tells the story more effectively than canned sound effects.
Well, right. I mean, not only, and as you can see in the very opening shot, you just don't get the same urgency that we were able to get in the final mix of the horse arrival, but then also in the saloon, we were able to do a lot more fleshing out of the soundscape. We had some Foley of people playing poker, we had cards shuffling, we did a little bit of loop group and had some actual actors, you know, given sort of a more rambunctious atmosphere to the saloon, which is great when you juxtapose it versus the villain, who is really brooding and he's clearly waiting for something.
Yeah, because I think I Googled, you know, I went to, I used a stock, you know, sound effects house, and I think I was finding like saloon and then trying to mix the ambience and trying to build in glasses and poker chips, and it just kind of gets all over the place, and what you have I think is very effective. I want to show one more clip, and then we're going to actually do some Foley here on stage and take some clips and strip out the audio and see if we can recreate some here familiar with it. But let's look at one more clip from the end of Bang Bang, because it has footsteps and horse hooves and things that tell a story in a different way. Okay, so there's a lot of like little sound effects happening in there, and none of this, again, we shot no production audio, gave you no guide whatsoever. So tell me what we're hearing.
It's a bunch of different layers. You know, we have our Western backgrounds. We've got a few sparse birds here and there. Really, the critical story elements, and this is an occasion, like I was saying before, where Foley really does play a huge role in the story, because as you can see, we've replaced the footsteps of the hero with horse hooves. Is a comedic element to live in this farcical clown Western world. We've got a classic red-tailed hawk sort of searing through the credits right in a little gap of music. We've got horse vocalizations. I think it was one of your ideas that we wanted a sort of sarcastic horse whinny as he passed the deceased villain, sort of as like a bit of a scoff. And then at the very end, when the drunk clown who appears earlier in the film comes out, we tried to add a little squeaker to one of his shoes, which I think is brilliant. Just having one of them kind of is like this broken down, tawdry Western clown world. His voice, the vocalizations he makes, the laughing that he makes at the very end, I think we went through maybe like 3 different renditions of that. That was all ADR, all the ADR, the breaths, the voices that we got for this, none of it was the real actors who performed it on screen,
Yeah, we use supplemental actors and ADR and use them. So and I think you did a great job of making that all pay off. So I think, why don't we change over? Do you feel like trying to do a little actual Foley here on some clips we have actually in-house?
I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's do it.
All right, great. Do I have any volunteers here in the audience? It's you, sir. All right, what's your name, sir? Jim? All right, Jim, we're going to ask you to join us kind of over here on the other side of the stage. We're going to move over here and see if we can create a little bit of Foley. So the first clip we have here, Jim, and I'm going to let Julian give you some direction. Here, Jim, why don't you actually join me right up here. I'm going to put you're going to become me. You're going to go right here. And we're going to do, the first clip we're actually going to do, Jim, is going to have some, it's a scene in a ballet studio where a woman rips off a whiteboard and throws it on the ground and then writes on a window next to it. So we're going to do that all with this whiteboard right here. So before we even get into that, let's take a look at the clip and see what you're going to be creating, okay? Okay, so that's our clip. How do you feel, Jim? Do you feel like that's something you can do? Okay, so Julian, why don't you give him a little direction, see if you can get him started here and know what he should do.
Sure. First thing you want to do, uncap that thing and have it handy, because it's going to go very fast. Yes. Yeah. As you saw, you're going to want to slam this thing down. I think you can do it right here, right on here, yeah. As you saw, she goes straight for that glass mirror, so you definitely have one very clear sync impact. After that, when we cut away from her, can't do whatever you want. You just want sound. You just want some sort of audio cue that she's still writing on the thing. When we cut back to her, that's when it's important that you're actually back in sync with the whole thing. I think that that's a good direction. Why don't you give this thing a shot?
All right, so Jim, we're going to start with the crash, and then you're going to write best as you can to the picture, okay? We're going to record this live, so everybody, here, let's be quiet and let Jim get some good audio taking. Okay, you ready, Jim? Okay, here we go. Stand by. Everybody ready? Here we go. All right, Jim, that was great. What were you writing here?
I don't know.
I think we'll give it a listen here in just a second. How do you think that went, Jim? Are you going to need another take, or are you one take, Jim?
I'll need another take.
Need another take? All right, first, before we see that, we're going to take a look here just a second, and let's take a look at how it sounds.
This isn't very sweet.
Pretty good, Jim. Let's give Jim a round of applause. Pretty good for seeing the clip once and then going here. All right, Jim. All right, Julian, what do you think? What can Jim do to kind of get us a little closer here?
Well, so check it out, because one of the things that you sort of clued in on was the squeakiness right afterwards. And I think that you even found just now that by applying a lot more pressure, you can just sort of coax it to do that. Yeah. Which is exactly what you want to be doing, the way you want to be thinking as a Foley artist, is like, here's what I got. It doesn't matter how it looks or actually what I'm doing. It only matters how this thing sounds coming out the other end. One of the things I'd say, as you found out when you just like slam this down, it's just one big impact, right? I would totally recommend treating this like, as a drummer, I would call this more of a flam, to have one side of it impact and then the other side. You know what I mean? Faster than that, louder than that, obviously. But with that idea, exactly, because when she throws this on the ground, odds are it's not going to land flat. And even if it did actually land flat, it sounds way less exciting, just because there's more to it then. I would also say, as a Foley artist, if I were performing the Foley, I would have I did when I watched this down, I took note of how many different marker impacts there were in each segment. So I knew that there was one big one, then we cut away. Then she did about 11 different separate impacts when we cut back to her. There's a lot of sort of quick memorization of a little sequence that goes on, because then your Foley editor can go in and have what they need to splice it all in. Yeah.
Okay, Jim, do you feel like let's give that a practice. Maybe try dropping it instead of controlling it. Yeah, that's closer, right?
Totally.
Yeah, squeaky-wise. We're going to work on squeakiness. I don't know. Let's see if we can get it to squeak.
There you go.
You get a little bit of it. We're also destroying this. We're also destroying this marker, but like
that's okay.
More. You actually might need
the
another.
marker can sacrifice it for. Let's see. Will it still go? Let's see if we can still get the squeak out of it.
I always think is interesting about the Foley process is, obviously that they're working with these markers, but the truth is that you can oftentimes find another element that is equally better squeaky. Like,
oh yes, for
absolutely.
sure. And
it might not be this. It might be something that like a squeaky shoe.
This is what I've picked out for us to do. This is probably so you could definitely. I think you're probably right. So
well, actually, in the end, if you wanted squeaks, you might do two passes. You might do one pass with just your finger on some glass, and then another pass for marker impacts.
We'll
something like that.
I'm not even sure if we have another marker here. Is that one still going to?
I saw a green one around somewhere.
Let's see if we can get. I think we still can do it. I can still get her to squeak here. You might have one. Are you
came with Foley props?
You came with Foley. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an official advertisement for sound designer Jim. He's handing out business cards at the end of this. All right, Jim. We're gonna take one more go at this. There you go. Okay. We're gonna take one more go at this, Jim. So here we go. Let's dig deep. Now we know that we've got one flam drop kind of thing, and then we know that we've got 11 roughly writing things. Okay, great. Here we go. Everybody ready? Let's try this one more time, Jim. Let's give it up for Jim, everybody. Take number 2, Jim. Where are you from, Jim?
Chicago.
You're from Chicago. You're a long way out here in Las Vegas. You just coming for NAB?
Yes, just
Not coming for the blackjack, you sure?
no, just
Okay, Jim, we're going to take a look at how that second take was when we have a little bit more of a flam, trying to get more squeaky in there. Let's give it a look. There you go. You found a little squeak with that eraser there. Oh, here we go. Oh, we've lost our picture here. Hang on. We're going back. Let's go back and try that one more time. Let's give this one a look. Pretty good, Jim. Give it up for Jim, professional Foley artist here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for playing, Jim. All right, we're going to do one more Foley thing. Do I have one more volunteer? Al, you want to try one more Foley thing? All right, this one is going to be a completely different piece. Give us 1 second. I'm just going to reset some things here. Julian, if you don't mind going ahead and grabbing that bowl right behind you. Oh, yeah. Al, do you have any affinity towards or dislike of oranges?
Love them.
You love oranges. Well, this is your lucky day. All right, Al. Here's what we are going to be doing. This is from I'll let you, Julian, let the professional touch the mic. We are now going to be doing a horror piece, and it's a little bit gruesome, but the scene involves a woman eating her own leg. So we're going to recreate the sounds, the squishes, and first of all, we'll give it a look here. While Julian sets that mic, let's give it a look to see what we're going to be recreating. All right, so it looks like there's a gasp there at the end. There's an orange, or we're going to use oranges because this is what you actually used when you did it, right, Julian?
We actually used oranges, yeah.
All right, so when you actually did it, you used oranges, found it to be pretty effective, right? So let me find it. We have some paper towels here. Don't worry,
I would call
Al.
it a little more, what you're going to do is a little more graphic than just chewing on the orange, but yeah.
Prepare yourself, Al. You get that. There you go. Get your paper towels there. I love it. That's fantastic. All right, Al. So don't forget, what I've seen there's is a vocalization at the end also where she pulls her head up and she's like, had some. Okay, great. So you ready to give this a shot, Al? Get ready, Al. You're going to get right up in there.
Front of that mic, yeah.
All right, here we go. Stand by. Let's give it a shot. All right, Al, you guys can't hear it up there yet, but it sounded great up here. How was the orange?
delicious.
It's delicious. It looks like you got a great big mouthful of it. Okay, Al, we're going to give this a look whenever we're ready. Let's see how it sounds. The ending was amazing, Al. Let's give it one more shot. Julian, let's give Al some direction. Let's give it one more shot here. See if we can hone her in even a little bit more.
I love it. That was really good, honestly. Two things. So there were like two lip flap, two mouth open moments that she had. So you want to catch both of those. Otherwise, honestly, I mean, you're just really becoming very friendly with that orange. I would say that based on the nature of the piece, how gruesome it's supposed to be, there is no level of too muchness, you know? Too much is not enough. So there's no level to how over the top you can go with how messy and gruesome and bloody it sounds.
Okay, Al, does that feel? Yeah, all right, let's try. Also, where are you from, Al?
San Diego.
San Diego. Oh, that's why you like oranges out here in California. All right, here we go. So here we go, Al. We're going to give this a shot. Everybody ready? Here we go, Al. That was fantastic. I think you got both the mouth sounds. All right, we're going to see how it sounds after we've had a few notes. Was that orange better or worse than the last one?
It
was a little drier.
That was a little drier. Well, that's definitely going to affect the sound. Oh no, we got a dry orange here, everybody.
It's good because usually Foley artists, they can suffer from scurvy, so cues like this are great.
Oh, great, got it. You get your vitamins.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let's see how it sounds, Al. All right, Al, let's give a round of applause for Al, everybody. Woo! Also, I want to thank you very much, Al. Thank you very much for playing the game. Julian, it is wonderful having you. Thank you very much for being on again today.
Thanks so much for having me. This is so much fun. And hey, you know, yourself and all other filmmakers, please come visit me at AudioWorks in Chelsea and Manhattan. We do feature mixes for long films, short films, everything in between.
And you also mix television shows very well. You've done a few for me.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
And I also want to thank Tom Conti from Sennheiser for coming on today and sharing their products. You can see all the episodes of Adorama Live on nofilmschool.com. So please join the conversation by going, watching the videos, and leaving a comment. I'll see you on the next episode of Adorama Live on No Film School.